Welcome back. Most people can agree that business plays a crucial role in the quality of life in our community. While there may be plenty of rewards to be gained by doing business, at the end of the day, it has always been a tall order. We're pleased to have met with Christine Ross this week to learn a little bit about how the Maryland Chamber of Commerce, an organization committed to helping businesses thrive. Here's Christine Ross talking about the state chamber.
So the Maryland Chamber of Commerce has been in existence for 49 years, and we are the lead business advocacy organization in the state. We have 700 members that represent 400,000 employees across the state. They're from every county, they're from every business sector. A lot of them are local chamber members that also want to have a state perspective on legislation. And sometimes they are the big businesses, and sometimes they're the small businesses. So it's a very diverse group. And the way that we look at it is that a local chamber is a great entry point for folks to understand how a chamber of commerce can benefit them. And then over the life cycle of their business, they may find that the state perspective is also another great layer to add on.
Henry, what do you think about the chamber? What do you feel about the role it plays?
The chamber plays a really important role within not just our state level, but also on our local level. I know she was here speaking about the benefits of the Maryland State Chamber, and when I was involved with my father's business, we frequently worked with the Maryland State Chamber to accomplish, small business goals, and that's where the chamber really excels at. So I think it's a real positive benefit for us, and we also have a really great local group of members here. I think, several hundred members within the Washington County community that are members of the chamber.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Mary?
I think it was interesting that she noted that it's made up of both large businesses and small businesses. When I think of the chamber, before I heard that little clip, I was kind of assuming that it was just large corporations, that they only were representing big businesses. But I'm happy to hear that it's a diverse group and that they represent all businesses, large and small.
Yeah, I think it's important to note how well they can bring together large corporations with those small businesses and find a way to connect them on similar interests and networking opportunities. How about you, Ron?
I big supporter of the Chamber of Commerce, served on governmental affairs for years, and did a little research on Ms. Ross. Wise choice. She comes from Bonita Springs, Florida, and what I like about her and what she was able to accomplish down there, she was a Person of the Year in her community, but she also brought together economic development, and the chamber became a viable part of economic development. And I'd love to see our local chamber pick up the gauntlet as part of economic development in Washington County, working with the Washington County Industrial Foundation, with the county, the city of Hagerstown, and the chamber. And she could help forge that relationship because she's done it in Florida at Bonita Springs.
Good point.
Let's go back to Christine Ross and hear a little bit more about the legislative issues with the Maryland Chamber of Commerce.
We pay attention to national issues, and we also work hand in hand with the local chambers. And so I feel like it's my obligation, for instance, to make sure that Paul Fry has all of the information on legislative issues coming down so that he can advocate as best for his business members as possible. So we really work hand in hand with everyone, and I look at it as a partnership. So we spend the fall going around and meeting with all of the delegates and the senators to talk to them about issues that are important to them and to let them know what issues are important to us as we move forward and get closer to session, so that you know the lay of the land going in.
So Mary, what do you think as far as legislative concerns and advocacy for business in our area?
I'm really encouraged to hear that the state chamber meets with our legislators on a daily or weekly basis, because politicians aren't always businessmen or women, right? They are politicians, unfortunately. So to have that insight from the private sector and the business sector, I think is really helpful as they're considering different laws that are being passed in Annapolis.
How about you, Ron?
I would hope that there will be a point in time when we talk about an overregulated state and overregulated communities that we become specific, deal with the particular regulation that needs to be changed and what content that it needs to be changed. and that we deal with it. We keep talking about bringing in jobs, but we talk about being an overregulated state. Well, why are we overregulated? Why can't we get to the point of that regulation? And also with the minimum wage, I throw it out on the table. I think the minimum wage needs to be dramatically increased to do away with some of the problems that we have with social issues.
It's a very good point as far as attracting businesses and also job creation at the same time. How about you, Henry?
Well, Ron, I hate to disagree with you, but that's kind of par for the course. I think we're on opposite sides on the minimum wage issue because you increase that, you chase away business. But regarding the chamber gets into the nuances that a lot of businesses don't really specialize. When they're down there lobbying and they're reviewing what legislation is being proposed and what's being passed, they're representing us in a business segment that is not really something that is in our wheelhouse. So, it's good to have them as a resource because they bring us up. It might not be an industry specific, for this business it's going to pertain to that, but it's in general scope of business related information. And that's where I think the chamber, especially the Maryland Chamber and our Washington County Chamber, really excels at.
I'm happy to hear too that she's willing to educate our local chamber on the issues that are happening statewide, not just in Annapolis, but across the entire state. I mean, Paul Fry is great. And I'm sure he's really grateful to have her as a resource too.
So we're concerned about the minimum wage rule that may be coming down and how that may impact businesses and job growth. We're looking at the sick pay. We're looking at potential tax regulations, and we're also watching regulatory reform to see if we can help eliminate more regulatory issues.
Okay, so Christine talked a lot about the minimum wage rule, sick pay, tax regulations. Ron, you had mentioned a little bit about that previously. Where do you stand on that? What are your thoughts on it?
She summed it all up. We need to be competitive with our neighbors, and whatever it takes to be competitive. We've had a local gentleman, Blackie Bowen. The governor appointed him to a task force to deal with the regulations that we had problems with. I think we need Blackie to help us channel into those thoughts, and Washington County needs to become more competitive with its neighbors. I think she's right on target.
Yeah. Henry, how about you? I mean, what do you think in terms of competitiveness of our county?
Knowing the structure of the way the chamber works, they're obviously they're pro-business. So they're looking to reduce our regulations. They're looking to reduce our taxes. They're looking to keep the minimum wage in check so it's competitive for them, because minimum wage was brought about to be a minimum wage. It's not supposed to be a sustaining wage. And by making us a more competitive business environment in Washington County and across the state with our neighboring states, it brings us and gives us the opportunity to drive our market and improve our unemployment here. So I think she's on the right track. As what her successes were, it's typical chamber policy to try to build and develop business within your community. I think she's headed in the right direction.
I agree with you about sustaining wage. It's it will be increasing. It's something that we're dealing with across the nation. But the average, I think, of a typical individual on minimum wage is a year to 18 months or something like that to stimulate. So what about you, Mary?
I definitely think that she's wise to focus on Maryland being a competitive business market, and she sort of alluded to the minimum wage debate. I just hope that I'm assuming that she's probably not for raising the minimum wage significantly, because if she's against a lot of regulations and things like that that put pressure on businesses, I would assume that she's not necessarily for. Her meaning the chamber, the state chamber, having a high minimum wage, but throwing money at a problem is not going to fix it. So that's kind of my beef with the minimum wage increase, even though I do think that it should be, it should go along with inflation. As long as she focuses on making Maryland a competitive business market, I think that she will be successful. So she's been in the role, now for 6 months.
Right.
So we'll see where she leads the chamber for the next 6 months.
So we'll leave you with final thoughts from Christine on talking about her thoughts on Maryland as a competitive business environment.
We need to be more competitive. We need to see how many rules and regulations we can eliminate so that we can streamline processes and make it easier for business to thrive in the state. And I think we need to pay attention to what's going on in our neighboring states. And if we're not doing better than them, it's a possibility that we could be in a little bit of a challenging position.
Up next, our panel will weigh in on how a pipeline is causing tension in America. We're back in 3 minutes.